You are listening to the IoT For All Media Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the IoT For All Podcast, the #1 publication and resource for the Internet of Things. I'm your host, Ryan Chacon, and on today's episode, we have Mitch Klein, the Executive Director at Z-Wave Alliance. For those of you who may be unfamiliar, the Z-Wave Alliance is a standard development organization dedicated to developing and advancing Z-Wave technology as an open and internationally recognized ITU standard for smart home and IoT solutions. You've probably heard from Mitch before on the podcast. He's been a fantastic guest in the past. And obviously no change on this episode. We talk a lot more about Z-Wave, what it is, the first certified Z-Wave long-range device, what that means for the industry. We talk a lot about interoperability too, what it means, why it's important, challenges in the space, the future of the space, the future for the Alliance, things like that they're really focused on. So all in all, tons of great content here. One thing I do ask, if you are watching this on YouTube, please leave please like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so. If you're listening to this on a podcast directory somewhere else, please subscribe. It allows you to get the latest episodes as soon as they are out. But other than that, we have one quick message before we get into this next episode. Works With by Silicon Labs has emerged as the go-to developer conference for building the skills needed to create impactful connected devices. On September 13th through the 15th, Silicon Labs is bringing together influential technology brands, ecosystem partners, and developers for 3 days of technical training and workshops, keynotes, and expert panels. Works With is live, online, and free. Register at workswith.silabs.com, workswith.silabs.com. And without further ado, please enjoy this episode of the IoT For All podcast. Welcome, Mitch, to the IoT For All podcast. Thanks for being here this week.
Ryan, it's wonderful to be back again.
I know. It's great to have you.
Yep.
Always a pleasure. For our audience who may be a little less familiar, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit more about your background, experience, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I can take the next hour and fill you in, but I think I'll go in the brief, the short form. I am currently with Silicon Labs. I'm Director of Alliances Strategy. So basically, alliances are all about the different technologies and platforms, and some of which we'll be talking about shortly. I'm also the Executive Director of the Z-Wave Alliance. Of course, my heart still lives in Z-Wave, and happy to talk about that in a moment. But over a 30-year career, I can just tell you that I started doing smart homes long before smart and home were ever put in the same sentence.
Right.
Like many of your listeners, I've crawled through attics and tried to snake wires through walls and make things that were never intended to be automated, to automate them, and been through all the trials and tribulations from being an installer all the way up to developing products. So it's been a great ride, and I'm still enjoying it right now.
Fantastic. So you mentioned the Z-Wave Alliance. Tell us a little bit more about kind of what that is, what the Alliance's goals are, the focus, the reason for it existing, that kind of thing.
Right. Just at a slightly higher level, alliances are technical alliances are established really to develop further the technologies behind. In this case, it's Z-Wave, right? So the Z-Wave Alliance is an organization of about 300 member companies that develop products for the Z-Wave ecosystem utilizing the Z-Wave platform. The technology itself is something that we work on together to try and drive, say, the new products, maybe some new features. I mean, as you know, technology is always advancing. There are always new use cases, and the Alliance focuses on being able to determine what those would be, what the priorities are.
Sure.
And we also focus on the go-to-market side too.
Okay.
So, it's a great place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So Z-Wave, from a technology perspective, tell us high level kind of what it is, how it works, the purpose. Let's start there.
Okay, great. Z-Wave is a platform, full stack, if you will, that is designed for products to communicate to each other, understand what the communication is, and either pass it along to another device that needs to know what's going on and actually be able to take an action as a result. So you've probably heard of others. Bluetooth or Wi-Fi would be examples of technology platforms. But what makes Z-Wave different is that it's full stack. And that just simply means that not only is it a mechanism to send and receive information, but it also has the application layer, which means the level that enables devices to understand what that transmission means. Okay. And because of the full stack, it is fully interoperable. So it is not brand specific. You could mix and match any brands together that are utilizing Z-Wave. So you could have, for example, a house with 3 door locks, one from Schlage, one from Yale, and one from Kwikset. And they would all be able to communicate with each other. So you could set a scene that says, like, say, good night, and all the doors would be locked, if you will. So that's kind of where we are. We've got we just passed our 4,000th certified device. We require certification for anyone that utilizes the Z-Wave intellectual property, and that ensures that devices will be interoperable because the testing requires that.
Okay.
The other cool thing is it's fully backwards compatible.
Okay.
And we have some folks that may have installed the very first Z-Wave device back in 2001 and have found that it still works even with the latest products that are out in the marketplace.
Fantastic. So how does Z-Wave kind of compare to just other technologies that are out there that work on devices being compatible and communicating with one another?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to that before, that it's a full stack. So let me see if I can give an example. Let's say let's use email. I'm going to use this example.
Okay.
Email is ubiquitous. You can send and receive email no matter what device you have, whether it's a phone or a PC or computer, what have you. You can send and receive email. But if I send you an email in Japanese and you receive that email, you'll get the email just fine.
Right.
But you won't be able to understand what it is because you don't speak Japanese. Okay. So what Z-Wave does is it enables all of that communication to ensure that the end result is understood. So like email, we have the transport layer, we have all the technical layer, the network layer, etc., but also the application layer that requires devices to be interoperable. So you can have Wi-Fi devices that will be able to send and receive Wi-Fi, but without the same application layer on top, the products won't necessarily work together, but you'll be able to send and receive the message. So Zigbee would be an example of a product that only within the last several years has mandated the same application layer so that, Zigbee devices will work with Zigbee devices. But Z-Wave has always been like that. So I don't know is that making any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you because I know, like, when people talk about Z-Wave, there's also, you hear Zigbee. Just a better understanding kind of how it all works together and the purpose of it, so that when somebody's out there looking for, let's say, smart home devices, and they're making sure that they work together, what they should be looking for and how to kind of understand the decision-making process.
Yeah, there's only one version of Z-Wave.
Yeah.
Period.
Okay.
So any Z-Wave device, whether it's an old one or a new one, it will be supposed to be working together.
Okay.
Zigbees are also, don't get me wrong, Zigbee is also a very good platform.
Sure.
But there have been different versions of Zigbee.
Gotcha.
So you could have 2 Zigbee devices with the same logo, but one was really designed for, say, advanced meter infrastructure, and another one was designed for lighting, and another one was designed for smart home. And those 3 devices may or may not communicate with each other. And it's really hard to know which ones will work with which. Whereas with Z-Wave, there's only one version.
And how does Matter fit into all this?
And that's another great question. Okay. Matter, for those of you that are not familiar with it, real quickly, what you had was some of the biggest names, Apple, Amazon, Google, Samsung, SmartThings, et cetera, and about 200 other companies all getting together and saying, you know what, we need to fix the fact that products just don't work together, and that it requires the actual end users to understand what product do I have, what's going to work with it, and that basically there's too much effort on the consumer part to know, and more often than not, you're mix and matching products that don't work together, unless, of course, it's all Z-Wave. So what Matter is that application layer. So remember, go back to the email thing, right? So if we're using that email and you put Matter on top of that, Matter is a standard that is, let's just say, is going to release its version 1.0 and first slew of products later this year, probably sometime mid to late fall. And it's designed to provide for full interoperability between Matter products. So it becomes very clear. You buy a product with Matter, it works with Matter, period. Okay, so that's coming. The thing is, it doesn't specify which platform it's on. This is an IP-based application layer that will run on Wi-Fi and
Mm-hmm.
will also run on Thread.
Okay.
And we'll have to make sure that you have the right products in order for Matter to work with your existing non-Matter products. But this backwards compatibility is something that we're working on, and Silicon Labs is already providing solutions for some companies to be able to ensure that compatibility with non-Matter products.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, we've had a couple guests on talk about it here briefly, but we really haven't dove too far into it. So I appreciate you kind of elaborating on things a little bit there for us.
Oh, I can dive as deep as you'd like, Ryan, on this one.
So let me ask you another question. We talked about interoperability. You've mentioned it a couple times. Can you just for our audience's sake, for some of them out there, explain exactly what it means and why it's so important that devices are interoperable when it comes to, especially the smart home space?
Right. Well, first of all, what we want to avoid is requiring a consumer to understand the full uh, all of the different technologies. Okay, so the bottom line is there's no one platform that is perfect for everything, which
Mm-hmm.
is why there are so many different platforms. Interoperability ensures that from a user perspective, you just buy what you want and buy what you need, and that's that.
Okay.
You don't have
Yeah.
to worry about, well, will this sensor work with my security system, or
Right.
well, will this door lock work or will this light dimmer work with that light bulb? There are multiple platforms that is not likely to ever change.
Mm.
And why interoperability is important is because it becomes frustration free. I mean, I'm confident many others have had the same situation that I've had, whereby you bring a product home from the store and you find that you unbox it, you're all excited, and it just doesn't work with your system,
Yeah.
right? That's an understanding that shouldn't be a requirement for a consumer. You shouldn't
Mm.
have to know that. You should just know, I want to put a door lock in, and just buy
Mm-hmm.
the one that you like. Buy the one that looks the way you want it to look and has the features you want, and it should just simply work.
Mm.
And that's the promise that Z-Wave has been making for 20 years,
Sure.
but that's just Z-Wave. And Z-Wave doesn't cover all of the different platforms, all of the
All
different
right.
use cases. You're not going to find a Z-Wave camera, right?
Sure. Okay.
Again, it's not fit for purpose for that. So this interoperability with Matter, which is we're very excited about that, both from the Z-Wave side and the Silicon Lab side, because that's going to really help further along that concept of just buy what you want and it will work with whatever you have.
Yep.
That's the goal of interoperability.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it's a lot of people, especially on the consumer side, don't realize how everything necessarily fits together, and they shouldn't have to.
Exactly right.
It's when you get a new device or a smart device, and you're building out kind of your smart home feature set of devices. You don't want to have to worry about if they work together or not. They just should, if you're thinking about it from a consumer standpoint. Um, so yeah, this has really been kind of helpful to kind of dive into that side. And I
Mhm.
guess in that same light, what are some of the challenges you've seen in the smart home space when it comes to interoperability, when it comes to the different devices on the market, like just in general from a higher level standpoint? What are some of the challenges you've seen consumers face through the adoption of these different devices for their homes?
Well, we've already talked about the first challenge, which is really knowing what platform you're on in the first place,
Right.
right? But the other thing is the challenge from a manufacturing side is no one platform covers all aspects of the smart home, and I alluded to that before. If you want a camera in your system, right, you're, you're going to be pretty much committed to Wi-Fi or Ethernet if it's hardwired,
Hmm.
because Wi-Fi provides that huge bandwidth necessary to drive video,
Right.
right? However, if you want it to be a battery device, if you ever run a battery video, you're talking hours, you know, as opposed to perhaps a battery operated sensor under Z-Wave, which could last you 5 to 10 years.
Sure.
So that's why I say these technologies are fit for purpose, And the challenge has always been, how do we put together these disparate platforms and these disparate products so that
Right.
a consumer can just simply enjoy whatever they need? What we've seen over the years is what we call a walled garden, and that's
Okay.
been a relatively successful approach. So, for example, if you're an Apple fan and you like HomeKit, there's a walled garden of products that are specifically designed for HomeKit, and all the HomeKit products will work with HomeKit,
Right.
right? But there's a large but. You got to make sure whenever you buy a product that it specifically says works with HomeKit. And that same can be said for other platforms as well. And
Sure.
that's what we're trying to avoid. This is the challenge for a consumer. How do you commit to something like that when you
Yeah.
really don't know not just now what you want, but what am I going to want in 2 to 3 years? Is all my stuff going to work? Or am I going to have to replace everything that I bought a year, 2 years ago?
Sure. Yeah,
Right?
that's a legit concern for sure.
Exactly. Right. So again, anyway, so that is the big challenge, not just for consumers, but also for the manufacturer as well, is
Makes
decide,
total sense.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So then where does not just this one challenge we're talking about, but where do you kind of see the space going in general? We've talked about, maybe more specifically on the Z-Wave side, what are you most excited to kind of see develop and progress? Like where are things going?
Yeah, that's also a really good question. You mentioned Matter. There is some concern that certain platforms like a Z-Wave or something will become irrelevant and everything's going to switch over to Matter. And the reality is that's not going to happen
Mhm.
because again, we're talking fit for purpose and we're talking hundreds of millions of devices that are out in the marketplace already that are not going to go dark simply because a new platform comes out that says, hey, we're interoperable.
Right.
So, what I do tell any consumers, as well as our members of the Alliance, as well as Silicon Labs customers, is keep doing what you're doing because
Mhm.
the products that you have or that you buy or that you want to buy or that you've already installed will be able to work with things down the road because there will be a thing such as a bridge.
Okay.
I'll use that term loosely because
Sure.
there's a lot of other terms that are used for it, whether it's border router or what have you.
Right. Right.
But ultimately, there'll be software somewhere, whether it's in the cloud or a device or something like that, that will
Mhm.
ensure things are backwards compatible, even if you buy some of the newest gear going forward. Um, that is how the promise will be delivered,
Okay.
is by ensuring that things going forward are interoperable and things going backwards will still work with the stuff that you already have.
Right. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to ask about on the Z-Wave side, I read about the long range devices being, or the first certifications for long range
Yeah.
devices. What does that exactly mean? Kind of why is it important? Why does it matter? Kind of what is it? What's all going on there?
Okay, that's also a good question. So Z-Wave long range, that addresses a couple of challenges.
Okay.
And the obvious one is in its name. It's right. It's a long range. Um, the the technology was expanded to include long range, so it can go up to. We've tested it up to about a mile and a half or so. So from point to point, roughly 1.5 miles. Granted, that's ideal circumstances, and I wouldn't want to make that promise, in someone's home. But if you think about it, you want to be able to, let's say, from the house to your mailbox or to the pool house or to
Mm,
the dog collar down
right.
in the backyard. But the real promise for Z-Wave long range is being able to get that product, Z-Wave products, into large scale MDUs, like apartment
Mm,
buildings or
yeah.
condominiums, or into hospitality, large scale, as well as into larger size homes whereby you can run upwards of 4,000 devices on one single system, which is really big. There's no other platform that can do that right now. And again, because everything is backwards compatible, Z-Wave long range products will continue to work with Z-Wave that's out in the field now.
Right.
So basically, you'll have Z-Wave that'll be both its standard mesh configuration as well as its long range. And again, we've tested it in Copenhagen. We got a little further distance, but I'll stick with about safely say that we're getting a mile out of it.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yep.
That
So again, size of the system and the distance that it can run, and we're getting an awful lot of attention in potential use cases in smart communities, smart
Yeah.
cities, street lights, things like that too. So it goes beyond
It's
just the home.
yeah, it's the natural progression, it seems like, for
Right.
these devices. Is I know there's been conversations in the past with like Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi not being able to handle longer distances, and Wi-Fi Alliance working to kind of solve that and
Yep.
stuff. So it definitely makes sense as to being what's needed because these devices and these use cases are just continuing to expand.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
there's no reason why things shouldn't work together, and you should have to worry about different types of um, um, different devices having to be integrated in, if you don't want to. So talk about apartment buildings, probably campuses, talking about communities,
Yes.
big large homes and properties. So absolutely makes tons of sense. So that's great to hear, and excited to kind of see that come out.
Yep. Yeah, we are too. And so the first few products have already been certified and are hitting the market.
Okay.
It's premature. I'll let them do the announcements. I shouldn't be
Yeah,
doing it for them.
it's fine.
Um, but we have had a handful of products already released into the
Okay,
marketplace, and some big names. And we've got
great.
quite a few more products in the process of being certified.
Okay, fantastic. Last question before I let you go here. Just for our audience wants to learn more
Okay.
about Z-Wave, just what's going on with the alliance, different devices out there. What's the best way to do that and kind of stay in touch?
So zwave.com is a
Okay.
public site. There's actually a lot of really good information on that site about the products and about the use cases,
Mm-hmm.
and also some guidance to help to build a system for yourself or even
Sure.
add on to a system. You can go to zwavealliance.org from a trade side. You're certainly welcome to go to that site as well. Uh, that site is in the process of being redeveloped, so may not be updated for another month or so.
Okay.
Um, Worst case, you can reach out to me, uh, Mitch at zwavealliance.org,
Okay.
and I'd be happy to either answer your question directly or perhaps put someone with a more technical expertise to be able to
Sure.
respond and help you out.
Fantastic. Well, Mitch, it's always a pleasure to have you. I
Mm.
appreciate you taking the time to kind of talk to our audience for the on the podcast. I think they get a lot of value out of this. We've been hearing a lot about these different technologies, and it's better. It's good to kind of have you on to kind of shed light on what's actually happening in the space. And a lot of our audience, majority of our audience, are consumers in the sense that regardless of the industry they work in, smart products are probably in their daily life. So this helps them
Yeah.
better understand exactly what to look for and how to kind of go about that buying decision.
Oh, yeah, and I feel your pain and I share your excitement. Both.
Absolutely. Well, Mitch, thanks again so much for your time. Look forward to having you back, and
Yep.
yeah, really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Ryan. Great to be back.
All right, thank you. All right, everyone, thanks again for watching that episode of the IoT For All podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please click the thumbs up button, subscribe to our channel, and be sure to hit the bell notification so you get the latest episodes as soon as they become available. Other than that, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.